Welcome to NTD Newsroom. I'm Don Ma. President Donald Trump weighs in on the fatal stabbing that killed a Ukrainian refugee on a Charlotte light rail. The president calls for the death penalty. President Trump's authority to have federal law enforcement deployed in D.C. ends today. Now, House Republicans aim to address D.C. crime policies in a package of bills. We talked to an expert about the relationship between crime, mental illness, and homelessness, and how the system could be failing both victims and perpetrators. The Senate Banking Committee moves forward with President Trump's nominee for Fed Governor, Stephen Miran. How many votes he received and what his plans are. Poland becomes the first NATO member to report firing shots in the Ukraine war. Officials say Russian drones crossed the border and entered Poland. What we know so far. An unspeakable evil that has claimed innocent lives over the past 2 decades. The Department of Health and Human Services is confirming forced organ harvesting in China.
This is NTD Newsroom, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
Good afternoon and happy Wednesday, everyone. President Donald Trump says the man who fatally stabbed a Ukrainian refugee on a Charlotte train should face the death penalty. The president took to Truth Social to weigh in on the attack. Trump called the 23-year-old Irina Zarutska, quote, beautiful young lady from Ukraine who came to America searching for peace and safety. Trump referred to the perpetrator as a, quote, animal before calling for his execution. The president added, quote, there can be no other option. The Justice Department has charged the suspect with a federal crime that could carry the death penalty. The federal charge follows questions about why the suspect, DeCarlos Brown Jr., was on the street. Brown had 14 prior criminal arrests before he was accused of killing Zarutska in an attack captured on video. President Trump's nominee for Federal Reserve Governor Stephen Miran has advanced through the Senate Banking Committee. Here's that vote earlier today.
I have 13 ayes, 11 nays.
The ayes have it. The nomination is hereby reported favorably to the full Senate.
Miran will face another vote before the full Senate, and if confirmed, he will replace Adriana Krugler, who resigned in August. Miran will serve the remainder of Kugler's term until next January. Miran currently serves as chair of the Council of Economic Advisors. He says he plans to take an unpaid leave of absence, but not resign if he becomes Fed governor. The committee vote today comes one day after another Fed governor, Lisa Cook, scored a legal victory. A federal judge granted a temporary injunction preventing President Trump from firing Cook over allegations of mortgage fraud. This is while her lawsuit challenging Trump's firing plays out. Meanwhile, inflation in the U.S. is unexpectedly slowing down. New data shows inflation cooled off at the wholesale level. Producers' price index unexpectedly fell by 0.1% in August. This brings annual inflation to 2.6%. That's down from a revised 3.1% in July. This drop is the biggest monthly decline in more than a year. President Trump is now once again calling on the Federal Reserve to cut interest rates. Trump suggests the decline in inflation allows the Fed to cut the rates. The Supreme Court has agreed to fast-track a review of lower court rulings that struck down many of the Trump administration's tariffs. NTD's Daniel Monahan has more on that and updates on trade talks with India.
Liberation Day.
The tariffs affected by current legal wrangling are President Trump's fentanyl and reciprocal tariffs, imposed under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act of 1977. The two cases were consolidated by the High Court and will be heard together in the first week of November. No justices dissented, and the court did not explain its decision. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent defended Trump's use of the Emergency Powers Act for fentanyl tariffs, speaking on NBC's Meet the Press.
I'm not sure on what planet this fentanyl crisis with 200,000 Americans being killed every year, this poison coming across the border, why can the president not use tariffs to stop that?
Bessent says using emergency powers for reciprocal tariffs, meaning a tariff intended to match another country's tariff, was also justified.
We have reached a tipping point in terms of our trade balance, that is what has created the emergency situation. And we are trying to bring the trade into balance.
Besson says the Treasury Department would be forced to issue tariff-related rebates if they lose the Supreme Court case.
We would have to give a refund on about half the tariffs, which would be terrible for the Treasury.
The Treasury Secretary says there could be other avenues to imposing tariffs if the High Court rules against those duties, but says those maneuvers would diminish the authority of the Trump administration. President Trump says everything is at stake in the key case.
If we don't win that case, our country is going to suffer so greatly.
Over to India, President Trump says trade talks between the U.S. and India continue. The comments follow Trump recently suggesting the South Asian country was lost to Communist China. The president wrote on Truth Social on Tuesday, "I look forward to speaking with my very good friend, Prime Minister Modi, in the upcoming weeks." Trump added that he feels certain there will be no difficulty in finding a successful outcome for both nations. Modi reciprocated the optimism in a social media post, saying Washington and New Delhi are close friends and natural partners. Modi says teams from both countries are working to finish up trade discussions as soon as possible. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
President Donald Trump urged EU officials to hit China with tariffs of up to 100% yesterday. A source familiar to the matter confirmed to the Epoch Times. It's part of a strategy to pressure Russian President Vladimir Putin. Here's more.
One source further said Trump encouraged the EU to put similarly large tariffs on India. Both China and India are major buyers of Russian oil. That plays a key role in keeping Russia's economy going as it continues its invasion of Ukraine. Trump's request was reportedly put across through a conference call to EU sanctions envoy David O'Sullivan and other EU officials. The EU delegation is currently in Washington to discuss sanctions coordination. The EU diplomat said the US indicated it was willing to impose similar tariffs if the bloc followed Washington's request. Trump has often threatened to impose tariffs on India and China as punishment for buying Russian crude. He hiked tariffs on India over the summer by 25 percentage points, in part due to its economic relationship with the Kremlin. But he has yet to move forward on the more punishing options he's floated. Trump has at times complained that Europe itself has not fully decoupled from Russia. Moscow supplied just under a fifth of EU gas imports last year. The bloc says it's committed to fully ending its dependency on Russian energy.
The head of the European Union, Ursula von der Leyen, said that Europe is in a fight for its own future. Speaking at the European Parliament today, she said this about the trade deal with the U.S. Listen.
And honourable members, I do not believe in tariffs. Tariffs are taxes. But the deal provides crucial stability in our relations with the United States at a time of grave global insecurity. Think of the repercussions of a full-fledged trade war with the United States. Picture the chaos, and then put that image next to the one from China just last week. China flanked by the leaders from Russia and North Korea.
Von der Leyen added that battle lines for a new world order based on power are being drawn, and that many major powers were ambivalent or openly hostile to Europe. A warning from U.S. officials over solar-powered highway infrastructure. The Department of Transportation says devices should be scanned for possible rogue devices. This would include hidden radios. The security note warned that undocumented cellular radios have been found in certain foreign-made devices. The note did not specify where the products were being imported from. The advisory said the devices were used to power a range of U.S. highway infrastructure, including traffic signs, cameras, visitor areas, and EV chargers. The department warned that risks include simultaneous outages and data theft. Poland reports shooting down suspected Russian drones in its airspace today. It's the first time a NATO member is known to have fired shots during the war in Ukraine. NTD's international correspondent Arian Pasdar has the latest.
Russian drones reportedly entered Polish airspace on Wednesday. Poland says it shot them down with the backing of military aircraft from its NATO allies. Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk says it's the closest the country has been to open conflict since World War II.
We are most likely dealing with a large-scale provocation. But at the same time, we are in consultation with our allies. I am in constant contact with the NATO Secretary General.
The Prime Minister activated Article 4 of NATO's treaty, under which alliance members can demand consultation with their allies. The head of NATO says the organization is still assessing the situation.
A full assessment of the incident is ongoing. What is clear is that the violation last night is not an isolated incident.
Russia, meanwhile, denies the allegations. The country's defense ministry issued a statement saying its drones carried out a major attack on military facilities in western Ukraine, adding that it had not planned to hit any targets in Poland. The incident comes just a few days after a meeting between President Trump and the President of Poland. Some US troops are stationed in Poland. During the meeting, Trump was asked if the soldiers are scheduled to stay there.
If anything, we'll put more there if they want, but they've long wanted to have a larger presence. We have some countries that have more, not too many, but no, they'll be staying in Poland. We're very much aligned with Poland.
Trump also reacted to the incident on Wednesday, saying, "What's with Russia violating Poland's airspace with drones? Here we go." Arian Pastar, NTD News.
Joining us now to discuss Poland's announcement that it shot down Russian drones in its airspace is Jim Gilmore, former U.S. ambassador to the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe. He's also the former governor of Virginia. So, Ambassador, good afternoon to you. Can you talk to us about how significant is it that a NATO ally, Poland, fired weapons for the first time since the war in Ukraine began?
Well, I think that it's a statement that NATO territory is going to be defended no matter what the violation is. I don't think that it's a hearkening in towards war in Europe, that drone incident. But I think that they ought to approach the Russians right now and say, "What are you doing?" And demand an apology and assurances from the Russians that they're not going to have something like this happen again. I think that there's been some suggestion that this was deliberate. If it was deliberate, once again, I think that what we're really seeing here as a result of it, which the Russians shouldn't want, is a rallying of the NATO countries to each other. The report is here that the air forces of 4 different NATO countries responded. The drones were shot down. We're seeing the countries come together. The Baltic countries begin to say, "Listen, we're concerned about this." And I think that what you're seeing is a drawing together of NATO, even on this one minor incursion. So to me, I don't think that I would overreact, but I think that the Russians are being really stupid to allow something like this to happen.
So you're saying Russia allowed it to happen. Are you saying it was deliberate, or what is your assessment on that front?
Well, I don't have the information to know whether it's deliberate or not. I think that the NATO people have a right to defend themselves, and they're drawing together as a result of this. Article 4 of the NATO agreement is being exercised now by Poland. Poland is a lead state for NATO at the border with the Russian aggression. And it seems to me that the response has been perfectly appropriate and right. I don't think that I would overreact to it, but I think we've got a right to ask the Russians what they think they're doing and demand an apology and reassurances and any compensation necessary. And by the way, I also believe that if I were the NATO people, I would also say, this is part and parcel of your aggression against the neighboring country of Ukraine. If you can attack Ukraine, you could attack us. And we're very concerned about that. So once again, I think you have to continue to put the bug on Russia and their aggression and their violation of international law.
So you're saying if they can attack Ukraine, they can attack us. Prime Minister Donald Tusk said that Poland was closer to a conflict than any time since World War II. What is your take on that statement?
Well, I probably wouldn't have said that. I think that I would be more relaxed about it. But if the goal here is to brush back Russia, then I think that kind of statement should be sending a message to Moscow that Poland and its NATO allies are taking this kind of thing seriously. But in the end, I think that this is an opportunity to reassert the Western position that Russia is an aggressor nation, that they're attempting conquest, that they're committing war crimes, that they're stealing children, they're injecting people into conquered territory, they're annexing without any international authority. And I think in the larger sense, where we're really headed here is Russia and other countries like China and their allies we saw last week are trying to set up a whole new regime for the world, which is based upon power and force and not international law. Well, you know, if that's what we're going to do, the West has all the advantages in something like that, but we're headed down the path towards war, which will be more damaging to Russia than to anybody else.
So what we've seen with the response from NATO, does this instill confidence among members in the alliance?
I think it does. Look what the reaction has been. A joint military response, an exercise of the NATO rules. The consultation is going to occur within the Western alliance. Countries coming together. In fact, I understand that even Slovakia and Hungary were put on alert. And, you know, they've been very helpful and favorable towards Russia. But if they're reacting badly to this, that's once again a negative thing for Russia. Russia seems to be doing everything that it can do to destroy itself in this time of crisis. And, you know, right now, I think that we're going to have to stand up to these people and just show that they're not going to be able to get away with the big game, which is the one that's in Ukraine or anything they might be planning in the Baltics or in Poland or anywhere else. Brush them back because they're war crimes. Sooner or later, there's going to have to be some accounting for that. I believe that the Western response ought to be your obligation is to get out of Ukraine, stop these kinds of hybrid war violations like these drones, and surrender your people for trial. Because right now, sooner or later, there's going to have to be an accounting for the war crimes that the Putin regime is perpetrating against its allies, against its neighbors.
Okay, what do you think Putin is most afraid of right now?
I think Putin is testing the West right now. I think that he's on the move. I think he feels like that he is the one who has the advantages. I don't think that he's afraid of anything because he's the one who's trying to do conquest. I guess if I had to use the word fear, it would be this. We know his ultimate objective, and it's not to safeguard Russia. Russia is not in any danger from Ukraine or from NATO, and he knows that. I think maybe his greatest fear ought to be from his own regime and his own people who sooner or later are going to recognize the destructive things that he's doing to his own country. And that would be a real problem. So it seems to me that communication more and more and more to the Russian people and to the Russian regime about the danger of Putin's behavior would be something that he would fear.
Okay, Ambassador, just one more thing I'm wondering here. Is there any risk in your mind that the war may not only be contained in Ukraine?
If Russia and its allies in China and North Korea, and maybe sometimes also Iran, are able to redo the entire international order, where no longer is there restraint and living together for a better future, but instead warfare and force and territorial conquest, if that becomes the order of the day in the 21st century, then of course, naturally, that encourages aggression in other places, like in the Pacific. Right now, I think China is watching this and saying, really, is the attack on Taiwan really worth it? I think that's really the discussion, because even if they succeeded in conquering Taiwan, there would be a tremendous cost to China that they would pay for joining the concert of countries in aggression. And I think that they need to understand that there's a terrible price to be paid. Western resolve right now, like we're seeing right now in the Polish incident, is not only an important message to Russia, it's an important message to China also.
Okay, great points there, Ambassador, you raised today. It's always a pleasure to hear your thoughts. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Coming up, President Trump's authority to have federal law enforcement deployed in D.C. ends today. Now, House Republicans aim to address D.C. crime policies in a package of bills. Don't go away.
£6 prescription glasses from Select Specs are always great value. There are no offer codes or first-time customers only. Anyone can buy them, anytime. And you can upgrade to Select Specs Express for next-day delivery. And with deferred payments, you can spread the cost.
See now, pay later with Select Specs £6 specs. Next day delivery and deferred payment options available at selectspecs.com/£6.
How Gen X are getting their teenage bodies back. So this is my mom and this is my grandma. I recently posted a picture of the three of us and people were shocked. They are demanding to know your secrets. So what are they? Is it some new trendy diet?
Nope. I love going out to eat too much.
So then what's your go-to workout?
I don't work out.
You have to tell me what you're doing.
This is gonna sound kind of funny. I learned it from Chuck Norris.
Chuck Norris?
He just does one simple thing every morning, and now I do too.
I have to know what this is.
He made a video about it. Let me show you.
It felt like my entire body was on fire. I remember waking Chuck up and telling him, "You need to take me to the hospital." At the time, I had no idea I'd been poisoned by a series of MRIs.
It was scary.
The damage to my brain was severe, and I could barely speak. I lost muscle mass, and I couldn't even get out of the bed. I had an IV in me for 5 months, every day. And through it all, my wonderful husband never left my side. Look at me now. I'm healthier than I've ever been. Thank you, honey. It's because of you.
So, what did you change?
Well, what Chuck discovered was a game changer for us. And I'll tell you, it's nothing to do with crazy exercises or fad diets, nothing like that. And it's just really simple. Chuck and I do this one thing every day.
Yeah, we do.
And lots of other people are feeling great too.
Everyone's body has a built-in code. This code predicts how your body will age. I call it your aging type. And if you know it, it could help you dramatically improve your health. That's why I created this simple quiz that'll determine which age type fits you best and allow you to finally feel like a younger, healthier version of yourself. It was only after I learned my own age profile that I was able to choose the right diet for my body. In fact, I started feeling better in a matter of days. Answer just 6 simple questions. You won't be asked for your email or for anything else for that matter. We've kept the quiz short, simple, and free. So go ahead and click the link below to find out your aging type and get the crucial tips you need to feel amazing today.
Scan the QR code with your phone now.
Discover the ancient secret to vitality and longevity with Puretang Black Ginseng. Crafted from premium 6-year-old Korean ginseng, each root is carefully nurtured for over 2,260 days, undergoing a traditional 9-round handcrafted process of steaming and drying to unlock full potency and absorption. Experience pure, natural energy with Puretang Black Ginseng. Order now at puretang.com.
President Trump is touting a sharp drop in crime in the nation's capital since deploying the National Guard. Trump and several members of his cabinet marked the moment with a dinner in downtown Washington, D.C., saying the city is now safer than it has been in decades. Here's that story.
President Trump, Vice President J.D. Vance, and other cabinet members stepped out in Washington, D.C. Tuesday night, celebrating what they called a dramatic drop in crime since the National Guard hit the streets.
Thank you very much, everybody. We wanted to take some of the members of the cabinet out to dinner. Over the last year, it was a very unsafe place. Over the last 20 years, actually, it was very unsafe. And now it's got virtually no crime.
The president declared a crime emergency in August, federalizing local police. Since then, the White House says nearly 2,200 arrests have been made. At a press briefing, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt highlighted some arrests made on Monday, saying they included a suspect wanted for homicide, another for carjacking, and a third wanted for assault with intent to kill. Trump says he plans to keep the National Guard in the Capitol and is already looking to bring the crackdown to other cities across the country.
We're working it out. The governor of a certain state would love us to be there, and the mayor of a certain city in that same state would love us to be there. We'll announce it probably tomorrow.
President Trump's federal takeover of the D.C. Police Department technically ends today. The White House has not asked Congress to extend his authority to keep National Guard troops deployed for any longer. Republicans are seeking a permanent fix to address crime in the nation's capital. A hearing is underway right now. NTD's Melina Weisskopf has the updates.
There will be no extension of the National Guard here in Washington, D.C. House Speaker Mike Johnson was asked about this just yesterday. He said that it's not needed now that D.C.'s Mayor Bowser has explicitly said that she'd work with Trump. She recently signed an executive order to allow D.C. police to work with federal law enforcement and request extra assistance after Trump's emergency declaration ends today. Now, instead, House oversight lawmakers are taking up several bills aimed at addressing crime in D.C. The hearing kicked off at 10 a.m. this morning. Here's what both sides are saying.
the D.C. Council has attempted to bypass congressional oversight by abusing loopholes and bundling ultra-progressive policies in too-big-to-fail legislative packages in order to pass irresponsible legislation. As a result, D.C. has become less safe for its residents and visitors.
And we should be empowering D.C. to fix its own problems. We know that this bill further limits D.C.'s autonomy. The bill limits D.C.'s ability to respond to an emergency and could cause chaos in the D.C. Code.
Now, these bills don't only address policing and crime, but it also enhances the oversight of D.C. City Council, making it easier for Congress to repeal D.C. laws that they disagree with. It will also give the president the ability to appoint the Attorney General of D.C. It will also codify President Trump's executive order to create a program to beautify D.C., mainly addressing aesthetic issues like removing graffiti and restoring damaged public monuments. It's very likely that this package of bills will pass the Republican-controlled House. It will be more difficult in the Senate, but not impossible. It would take at least 7 Democrats in the current makeup of the Senate to get this package of bills through the chamber and to the president's desk for him to sign it. But remember, a few years ago, Democrats did vote with Republicans to overturn a D.C. crime law. That was a Republican bill that dealt with strengthening police authority. And since Republicans were able to push a bill like that through a Democrat-controlled Senate at the time, it's clear that this is a politically tough issue for Democrats. It'll be interesting to see how Senate Democrats handle it this time around. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Melina Weisskopf, NTD News.
Police are searching for a suspect wanted in connection with a brutal double murder, robbery, and arson in Queens, New York. Investigators say Jamel McGriff killed Frank and Maureen Alton, both in their 70s, after being let into their home. Hours later, the couple's son, a fire department EMT, called 911 after their fire alarm went off. Firefighters put out the flames at the residence and then discovered the couple's remains. Police say 42-year-old McGriff has a long violent record and is also wanted for other robberies across the city. Police Commissioner Jessica Tisch, the suspect's method is to go to door asking for some kind of assistance until he can gain entrance. The NYPD says he should be considered armed and dangerous, and anyone who sees him should call 911 right away. And turning to a special U.S. House election, Democrat James Walkinshaw yesterday easily won the contest in Virginia's 11th congressional district, narrowing the GOP majority in the House of Representatives. He defeated Republican Stuart Whitson in the overwhelmingly Democratic district. Walkinshaw served for more than a decade as chief of staff to the man he will succeed, Congressman Jerry Connolly, who died on May 21st. Once Walkinshaw is sworn in, the House GOP majority can only afford to lose 2 of its members when it comes to party line votes instead of 3. A Democratic former school board member in Florida has announced her 2026 Senate bid. She's challenging Republican Senator Ashley Moody. Jennifer Jenkins rose to prominence for her defense of pandemic restrictions and race and gender curriculum in education. Moody faces the special election to hold on to her seat after Governor Ron DeSantis appointed her to fill the office vacated by Marco Rubio. Trump tapped Rubio at the beginning of his second term to serve as Secretary of State. In launching her Senate bid, Jenkins said she will counter what she described as, quote, MAGA extremists. Whistleblowers tell Congress that children are being exposed to sexual content and sexual abuse on Meta's virtual reality platform. But they say Meta has sought to repress research that reveals these harms instead of focusing on profit over safety. NTD's international correspondent Malcolm Hudson has more on this story.
2 former researchers for Facebook parent company Meta Platforms told a Senate panel that Meta put profit from its virtual reality platform over safety. The whistleblowers testified that Meta hid or even erased data that showed children are exposed to sexually explicit material.
Meta has spent the time and money it could have spent making its products safer, shielding itself instead. It cares more about the bottom line than the emotional or physical safety of the children who use its products every single day.
She said underage users are incredibly prevalent. Meta requires users to be 13 or older to use their virtual reality platform, or over 10 with parental guidance. However, the whistleblowers said that Meta has no way to verify their age and that it directly targets youth for marketing.
it didn't have the ability to identify which users were under 13.
Meta has direct and global initiatives for years now to target youth across all of their products.
The former researchers said they were told not to investigate the harms to children using its virtual reality technology. Satizan explained what he experienced when he interviewed a young mother during a research project on headset use in Germany.
Her son began discussing how another member of their family, an underage, I believe he was around 8 or 9 years old, his younger brother was sexually propositioned, was asked for nude photos, had all sorts of sexual harm occur to him when he was using the headset privately, and the mother was horrified. In fact, actively, even when Meta tried to in real time shut down the questioning by the moderator because they didn't like the data they were collecting, the mom kept asking for the son to talk about it. She was giving explicit consent in order to understand what is going on with my family in this case. Despite that fact, afterwards, we were asked to delete all of our notes and recordings of it happening.
Savage said she found evidence that pedophile rings were using virtual reality to target children.
I identified that Roblox, the app in VR, was being used by coordinated pedophile rings. They set up strip clubs and they pay children to strip, and that Robux can be converted into real money. So, and I flagged this to Meta. I said, under no circumstances should we host the app Roblox on their headset. You can now download it in their app store.
A Meta spokesperson said the claims at the heart of the hearing are, quote, based on selectively leaked internal documents that were picked specifically to craft a false narrative. However, the researchers say there must be more accountability.
Only outside regulation and financial punishment is something that will actually create change inside the company. So
I agree. And I would also say, harm that happens online is harm, full stop. And so parents should be able to respond accordingly.
Malcolm Hudson, NTD News.
Coming up, we talk to an expert about the relationship between crime, mental illness, and homelessness, and how the system could be failing both victims and perpetrators. Stay tuned for that.
My name's Stacy, I'm 57, and I was adopted in 2020.
We were adopted in 2019.
And we were adopted in 2021.
We had a house, and it sounds crazy, but it wasn't a home. The one thing that Jake and Emma brought is it became a home.
When I met Dakota, he had just turned 14.
You weren't there for the first this and the first that. I missed the first words, but we got a lot of other firsts.
Watching her say, oh my God, I cannot believe I got my license. And she's like, I passed. And I'm like, girl.
See them grow. It is.
They chose to love us. They didn't have to. They chose us. Family.
You and you. Kids in the middle.
What I thought was a complete life was nowhere near complete, but it is now.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. You can't imagine the reward. Visit adoptuskids.org.
I don't remember how it started. Our back and forth. Victory. Fumble. Repeat. It always came back.
Okay, here we go, throw it! Yeah.
You probably don't remember what you told me.
That was perfect.
But I heard every word.
Nice.
Here you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The killing of Ukrainian refugee Irina Zarutska by a homeless man with a long history of violence and reported mental illness has sparked renewed scrutiny over soft on crime policies, as well as how the law deals with troubled homeless individuals. Joining us now to talk about the relationship among crime, mental illness, and homelessness, and how the system could be failing both victims and perpetrators is Michelle Stieb, founder of the Free Up Foundation and author of Answers Behind the Red Door, Battling the Homeless Epidemic. Her book is based on her 13 years as CEO of Northern California's largest program for homeless women and children. She is also a visiting fellow with the Discovery Institute's Fix Homelessness initiative. So first of all, good afternoon, Michelle. Thank you for coming on the show. So the Charlotte mayor...
Good afternoon.
Yes. So let me read you a quote from the Charlotte mayor. She says, "We will never arrest our way out of issues such as homelessness and mental health." She says mental health disease is like a disease like any other that needs to be treated with the same compassion like cancer or heart disease. Do you agree, disagree with what she said, or somewhere in between?
I agree that mental illness is a disease and that it needs to be treated with compassion. But here's the issue. In our nation's homelessness system in 2013, under a different administration, obviously, we decided that we were no longer going to fund mental illness treatment, addiction treatment, employment training, that we were only going to, under a one-size-fits-all approach, fund housing subsidies. Housing subsidies do not fix homelessness in and of themselves. There's a lot of accompanying issues with homelessness, including mental illness, including substance abuse disorder. Actually, about 80% of the homeless population struggle with those issues. So what's happened over the last 12 years is we've only treated homelessness through giving people keys to a house, is those diseases have gone untreated. And when diseases go untreated, just like cancer or heart disease, they get worse. And what has happened is we've got a lot of people who were sick at the point that we rolled this out who are even sicker. And when you get more mentally ill and you get more, deeper in your disease of substance abuse, you are much more likely to commit crimes. And that's exactly, I believe, what we're seeing in the case of Irina, which is just so horrific and so sad and so preventable. But I do want to point out that this president's executive order a couple weeks ago, you and I discussed that, is turned the ship in the right direction. What he has said through that executive order is we need to treat mental illness, we need to treat addiction. That has to be the priority for federal funding as it relates to homelessness. And in doing that, we're going to make our streets much more safe. We're going to give the homeless the opportunity to live the lives they were intended to live. And we are going to prevent crimes like we just witnessed horrifically with Irina.
Okay, Michelle, I just want to stay on this point a little bit longer. So you're saying, as the mayor said, that mental illness is the same as like diseases like cancer. Those two are the same, you're saying?
Mental illness is actually classified as a disease of the brain, as is substance abuse disorder by the CDC. It's a legitimate disease of the brain. And so, yes, it is a disease. I'm not saying we treat mental illness and addiction like we treat cancer. What I'm saying is they are diseases, and when they are left untreated, they get worse. And we're seeing that all over. The most recent example is Irina's demise.
Is there a connection between homelessness and crime?
1,000%, though I really want to qualify. We're not saying, we're not saying that the homelessness is a criminal activity. What we're saying is, number one, when you don't have a source of income, which almost everyone struggling with homelessness does not, largely because they're struggling with addiction and mental illness. They resort to crime in order to feed themselves, to fuel their addiction, to get a shower, to get a blanket, whatever the issue may be. So yes, there's a link in that way. But as we talked about a little bit earlier, when diseases like addiction and mental illness go untreated, they worsen. And what the data shows is when you become more seriously mentally ill and addicted, you are much more likely to commit a serious, violent crime. Data is, prolific in that regard.
So in terms of mental illness, is it a driver of homelessness, or can homelessness create an environment where developing a mental illness becomes more likely?
It is both. And I experienced that. I ran a program, the largest program in Northern California for 13 years for homeless women and children. And I saw where mental illness and addiction led to homelessness. I equally saw where the trauma experienced while homeless fueled mental illness and addiction. So it's not a, they are not mutually exclusive.
So on the suspect's case, a judge had released him, DeCarlos Brown Jr., on cashless bail. And this is after he agreed to the judge to show up for court at a later date. And we know he has a long criminal history, right? So in these instances where public safety is potentially at stake, how should the system balance the rights of individuals? These individuals sometimes with known risk factors. How do we balance that with the need to protect others?
Well, this president's executive order does just that. What he's saying is for 12 years, we've left mental illness and addiction, the often accompanying issues to homelessness, untreated, and it hasn't worked. Homelessness has risen, even though when they rolled this approach out in 2013, they promised it would end homelessness in a decade. Instead, homelessness has risen almost 35%. And the president recognized it's not working. We need to fund and in many cases require intervention. And that's what this executive order does. But the problem is we now have to build that system. This person should have never been on the streets. His mom requested more assistance. His stepbrother requested more assistance, and they didn't get it. And that's because there wasn't funding and there weren't programs to address this kind of situation. But we are now, with this, obviously the executive order happened several weeks before this incident happened. It's going to take us a while to build that system, but this president recognizes we can't continue on the path we've been doing, and he's put the right, he's given us the right direction. Now we need to build the system.
Okay, so the president has suggested or floated the idea of the death penalty in this case. What do you think about that?
Well, I'm not in the judicial system. I'm in the homelessness system, and I really believe, and I've seen, that's why I wrote my book. It's what I did for 13 years in running that program. I have seen people come back from the depths of despair to becoming homeowners as single mothers in California. So I believe in, rehabilitation. I believe in redemption. But I also believe in holding people accountable. And what happened in this case, I think many people across the country are looking over their shoulders in ways they've never done before after watching what happened to Irina. And I'm horrified by it. I'm not saying this individual can't get better, but he does need to be held accountable.
Okay, just one last question. And on the topic of responsibility, and you mentioned earlier that he should have gotten treatment, but he didn't. So, I mean, I don't want to play the blame game here, but where does the responsibility lie? Should the system have been better in treating him? Is it on the onus on the system of what happened here, or should the suspect be held more accountable? What is the balance between those two?
Yeah, well, the suspect absolutely needs to be held accountable. But, you know, again, the other person that needs to be held accountable is President Obama, who, when he rolled out Housing First, our nation's homelessness approach in 2013 as a one-size-fits-all approach, he defunded and decoupled treatment from housing, and he promised that would end homelessness in a decade. And that has not happened. It's gone up 35%, and we're seeing more and more incidents like we saw with Irina all across the country. You and I talked about one a couple weeks ago where a gentleman with 17 priors, 27 years old, was in Central Park and nearly bit one man's ear off and set two others on fire. It's craziness. We're seeing the ramifications of ignoring these accompanying issues for so long. So yes, this individual absolutely needs to be held accountable, but we also need to hold accountable the people who put this system in place and swore it was going to end homelessness and who continue to support its failure.
Okay, well, Michelle, well said, I believe. Thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you.
Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem is in Belgium today meeting with the country's prime minister. The two are discussing the fight against international organized crime. Here's Secretary Noem.
How we can do more to fight terrorist organizations, transnational criminal organizations that are killing our people, that are poisoning our citizens and our countries, and ways that we can be more nimble and creative in addressing that on a day-to-day basis.
Noem says the talks have been very productive, adding that both countries want to do more to fight organized crime. The Belgian prime minister wants to make shipping companies put smart seals on containers. He says this could target drug trafficking if the U.S. supports the plan. The prime minister acknowledges that the seals would come at a cost for the shipping companies, but he says that they are willing to do it. Israel attacked Houthi targets in Yemen's capital city today. Israel says this was in response to repeated attacks by the Houthis. The Israeli military said their fighter jets struck military camps of the terror regime, the headquarters of the Houthi military propaganda department, and a fuel storage site that served the military activity of the Houthis. Sana'a residents told Reuters the attack was on a hideout between two mountains that is used as a command and control headquarters. The extent of any damage was not immediately clear. Israel says the Houthis has launched unmanned aerial vehicles and surface-to-surface missiles toward Israeli territory earlier. Turning to the Middle East, Israel says it will succeed next time if its strikes in Qatar yesterday did not kill leaders of the Hamas terror group. The Israeli ambassador to the U.S. told Fox News the country may face criticism, but in his words, they'll get over it. He added that Israel is being changed for the better. The airstrike in Doha came shortly after Hamas claimed responsibility for a shooting on Monday that killed 6 people at a bus stop on the outskirts of Jerusalem. Hamas said 5 of its members were killed in the strike, including the son of exiled Gaza chief Khalil al-Hayya, but that its top leaders survived. U.S. Ambassador to Israel Mike Huckabee said today that it's unclear how the strike will influence talks to end the war in Gaza. Here's Huckabee.
Yeah, the honest answer is we simply don't know. Hamas has rejected everything so far. They continually reject every offer that's put on the table. They rejected one the other day that pretty much has been the position of the president throughout, and that is they have to surrender, they have to go, they can't stay and have any future in Gaza, and they have to let all of the hostages go. And they have utterly rejected that.
I'm not thrilled about the whole situation. It's not a good situation. But I will say this, we want the hostages back, but we are not thrilled about the way that went down.
The attack generated a flurry of diplomacy between Arab states. The president of the United Arab Emirates arrived in Qatar today. Jordan's Crown Prince Hussein is also expected to visit Qatar. Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman is expected to arrive in Doha tomorrow, according to Reuters. The visitors were not previously scheduled. Coming up, an unspeakable evil that has claimed innocent lives over the 2 past decades. The Department of Health and Human Services is confirming forced organ harvesting in China. That and more after the break.
Discover the ancient secret to vitality and longevity with Puretang Black Ginseng. Crafted from premium 6-year-old Korean ginseng, each root is carefully nurtured for over 2,260 days, undergoing a traditional 9-round handcrafted process of steaming and drying to unlock full potency and absorption. Experience pure, natural energy with Puretang Black Ginseng. Order now at puretang.com.
The bladder control aisle. You won't shop here again. Your private business is your own. The constant struggle is over. Now there's a better way. It's HDIS. We home deliver bladder control products. We understand how you feel. For over 25 years, we've home delivered to many of the 20 million Americans who deal with incontinence. We offer all brands. We pay shipping and use plain, unmarked boxes. If we can help you or someone you care for, call for your free product sample pack and $45 in money-saving coupons. Our counselors will help you choose the right product. And unlike stores, we're always in stock. You'll get what you need. Satisfaction guaranteed. HDIS, the better way.
For your free sample pack with your free catalog, $45 in money-saving coupons, and free product samples, call 1-800-701-6159. That's 1-800-701-6159.
During high school, I hung with the wrong crowd and I never graduated.
I helped Santiago in many different ways, like all fathers do, because he always wanted to go to college.
I felt a little embarrassed to come back to school, but eventually, once I came here, I knew that it's for a bigger goal.
He was very dedicated, hardworking. He connected with his teachers, he connected with other students. That was one of the key reasons why he was able to keep forging ahead.
It was amazing to see him graduate. This was one thing that meant so much to him, and of course, it meant so much to us too.
With the help of my father and having my son, that was all the motivation that I needed. That support is everything.
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org.
Kids love it. Parents trust it.
Obviously.
Explore GJW Plus Kids Series and Ganjiong Campus courses led by expert educators.
This is spectacular.
Children will learn values like respect, responsibility, and knowledge in language, science, and more.
Wow.
All while having fun.
Perfect.
Subscribe today at GJW Plus Kids, where learning meets fun.
An unbridled evil that has been continuing for over 20 years. The Department of Health and Human Services is confirming that forced organ harvesting is happening in China. HHS wrote on X, quote, "In China, forced organ harvesting of prisoners has continued for over 20 years. To affirm the sanctity of human life, America must sever its ties with China's organ transplant system." The department also stressed the need to prevent similar practices from taking place in the U.S. The department added that it had exposed systemic violations of the dead donor rule in U.S. hospitals, where organs were harvested from patients who may not be fully deceased. Human rights groups have also confirmed that Chinese hospitals have been forcibly harvesting organs from prisoners of conscience, including Falun Gong practitioners, over the past 2 decades on a wide scale. Former top FBI officials are suing FBI Director Kash Patel and Attorney General Pam Bondi. They claim Patel and Bondi fired them for political reasons. 3 former FBI officials filed a lawsuit. They are Brian Driscoll, former acting director, Stephen Jensen, former assistant director in charge of the Washington field office, and Spencer Evans, former special agent in charge of the Las Vegas field office. They claim in the lawsuit that Patel followed orders from the Trump White House and fired them in order to keep his own job. The former officials want a federal judge to restore their job and get a name-clearing hearing. The FBI has not reacted to the lawsuit.
During that time.
Tomorrow marks the 24th anniversary of the terrorist attacks of September 11th, 2001. Yesterday, the New York City Fire Department added names to the World Trade Center memorial plaque. NTD's Andrew Thomas has the details.
On Tuesday, the FDNY added 39 names to the World Trade Center Memorial Wall plaque, which hangs in the lobby at FDNY headquarters in Brooklyn. 343 New York City firefighters were killed on September 11, 2001, after al-Qaeda terrorists flew hijacked planes into the Twin Towers. Another hijacked plane hit the Pentagon in Washington, D.C. that day. A fourth crashed in rural Pennsylvania after passengers tried to retake the plane. But the resulting collapse of the World Trade Center also sent toxic debris into the air. Over the years, more than 400 firefighters have died from health conditions stemming from rescue and recovery efforts in New York City following the attacks.
We need to humanize what happened those 24 years ago and don't allow time to erode how significant it was. The countless number of men and women ran towards danger, and we're still losing their lives every day. And when we add these names on this wall to give honor to them, let's also educate the young people of our society that this is the greatest country on the globe, and this city is representative of that. I'm proud to have served as a first responder, and I'm proud to be the mayor of this city. And we will never, never forget, never forget.
Tomorrow, New York City will hold its annual Tribute in Light. 2 vivid beams of blue will shoot into the sky to honor the victims and heroes who died 24 years ago in Lower Manhattan. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
Next, showcasing the timeless beauty of a traditional art, NTD's International Classical Chinese Dance Competition returns for its 11th year this week, running Thursday through Sunday. Catch the semifinal and final rounds September 13th and 14th live on NTD or in person at the Sugarloaf Performing Arts Center in Chester, New York. For tickets and more information, visit dance.ntdtv.com. There are now work requirements for people to get food stamps in the United States. We have what you need to know to keep receiving the benefits after the break.
Shenyun Creations, the streaming platform from Shenyun, featuring world-class dance, past programs, and all original music. Masterclasses, behind the scenes, comedy, and more. Explore shenyuncreations.com.
Big things are happening at Mathis Home. Come in now for 65th anniversary savings all over the store. Like this oversized sofa in an ultra soft fabric with thick premium gel cushions and 5 throw pillows. Anniversary priced at just $9.99. That's an incredible value. Just one of over 100 great sofas in stock and ready for you to enjoy tonight with fast and easy financing and free delivery. Don't miss out on 65th anniversary savings happening now at your furniture superstore, Mathis Home.
How Gen X are getting their teenage bodies back.
So this is my mom and this is my grandma. I recently posted a picture of the 3 of us and people were shocked. They are demanding to know your secrets. So what are they? Is it some new trendy diet?
Nope. I love going out to eat too much.
So then what's your go-to workout?
I don't work out.
You have to tell me what you're doing.
This is gonna sound kind of funny. I learned it from Chuck Norris.
Chuck Norris?
He just does one simple thing every morning, and now I do too.
I have to know what this is.
He made a video about it. Let me show you.
It felt like my entire body was on fire. I remember waking Chuck up and telling him, "You need to take me to the hospital." At the time, I had no idea I'd been poisoned by a series of MRIs.
It was scary.
The damage to my brain was severe, and I could barely speak. I lost muscle mass, and I couldn't even get out of the bed. I had an IV in me for 5 months, every day. And through it all, my wonderful husband never left my side. Look at me now. I'm healthier than I've ever been. Thank you, honey. It's because of you.
So, what did you change?
Well, what Chuck discovered was a game changer for us. And I'll tell you, it's nothing to do with crazy exercises or fad diets, nothing like that. And it's just really simple. Chuck and I do this one thing every day.
Yeah, we do.
And lots of other people are feeling great too.
Everyone's body has a built-in code. This code predicts how your body will age. I call it your aging type. And if you know it, it could help you dramatically improve your health. That's why I created this simple quiz that'll determine which age type fits you best and allow you to finally feel like a younger, healthier version of yourself. It was only after I learned my own age